Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to another interview in Real Life Fairy Tales. Today, I am going to introduce you to a very, very dear friend, Dana Grant. She's coming to us all the way from California, and you can tell that you are in summer and I'm in winter. Our skin is
Yeah.
glowing a completely different color. I've got my winter shades on, and you look so glowingly healthy and beautiful, Dana. Thank you for being with us.
Oh, Edwina, I love being here. And I'm looking at you and I'm feeling winter. Emotionally, it feels like winter here, even though I've never spent so much time in the sun and on the ocean as I have in the last 8 weeks, as I just mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to start your incredible story way back at the beginning. So we're gonna take a dive back in time. And my children went to my four beautiful children went to a school that is Waldorf or Steiner school. And in the Steiner school system, they talk very much about children choose their parents. The little soul that arrives chooses the parents that are the perfect parents for them, that begin the journey of shaping us into the people that we're born to become. So, when you think about that, I would love to get a picture of the parents that you chose. So, let's start there.
I love that you just preluded that because I do, and I've always believed at this point in my journey that I'm so grateful for my
Yeah,
parents because I wouldn't have evolved and gone on the journey that I have. It has not been an
yeah,
easy one.
yeah.
It's been quite complex. And for a lot of people, they're like, when
Mm.
they read my book, they're like, there's just no way.
Yeah,
None of that could be true. And I'm like, oh, that wasn't even as we've talked about, not even the surface without trauma dumping, but there who I chose was my father was very magnanimous. I always look back on
Mm.
him and I think about, being who he was. He had a great capacity for joy and
Mm.
enthusiasm,
Mm.
but his own chaotic life for having an alcoholic father and being abused
Mm.
and wanting so much more and then getting married and having five children within literally 8 years. I mean, we're literally, my younger brother is 11 months. We're Irish twins, 11 months younger, then it jumps a year and then it goes bing, 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 bing again. So we're very close in age. And I think he took that on and he was an alcoholic,
Right.
but he was a very functional alcoholic until he
Yeah.
wasn't, much of a binger. So I lived with a lot of chaos, drama, unknown, and a narcissistic mom that was literally doing her very best,
Yeah.
but in her own right had a lot of trauma. So mother wound, father wound, chaos, a lot of chaos. And they divorced when I was 5, 6 years old, 1971. So a long time ago.
Yeah.
Um, that just kicked off a lot of instability and safety issues. So without that, though, I wouldn't have been able to embrace. I called in a lot of that. And I
Mm.
think we do when we call our parents in, and I do believe we do, we
Mm.
choose them. And I
Mm.
think we can choose them, and this is my perspective, we can choose them to evolve. We're
Mm.
here for this evolution. And I chose to look at what it was they taught me. And I think my dad wasn't, so I think this is my relationship. My dad drowned when I was 30, a lot of trauma there. But I think about what I'm most grateful for. I'm grateful the fact that he endured the alcoholism. He endured the pain of what he went through, and I know it was painful. I know the love. I know what he did and how he tried. The pendulum swung, trying to get forgiveness for what he had gone through, and there was the cycles. But I'm so grateful that he endured that, so I didn't have to. And I do believe that's a karmic. He endured all that suffering and pain. I've never drank a drop of alcohol in my life. And I
Mm.
thought, people think it's often strange. I have never even considered it.
Yeah.
And I think that was a gift paid forward to me.
Mm.
I think that here was his gift. And I also tried once I think I was 19 or 18, and I got so violently sick, and they said, you have alcohol poisoning. And I'm like, I'm never doing that again. So there
Yeah.
are gifts that we can
Yeah.
look at that they pay
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah.
So he did pay forward that gift. And I look at it as perhaps he took that suffering on so I didn't have to.
Yeah.
And maybe it frightened me enough that I was never going to go down that road of addiction because I was surrounded by
Mm.
it, and in this very upperly mobile class family that
Yeah.
looked beautiful, beautiful homes,
Yeah.
beautiful boats, beautiful cabins. No one would have known.
Yeah.
No one would have known.
How old were you when he died?
I was 30. I
Mm.
was 30 going through my first divorce, and I had a 5 and 6 year old daughter, and he had an accident in the ocean, and interestingly, he couldn't swim either, but he had waders on, and the psychic that we hired to because the Coast Guard here after 10 days abandoned and said he's lost at sea. I knew he was not. I would not leave that beach. There was a sandbar. I wasn't going to leave
Mm.
it. And someone that was very, very dear that he hired to help me through understanding being a seer myself, she was called in to find him and to say, crazy daughter isn't going to leave, and we got to do something about her. So she came in very angry at me, and because she said, how dare you make me find him. He was a dear friend to her. She did not, but she did his eulogy too. But she was mad at me a little bit um, at that moment that because she knew he's less than 5 feet away from her, and there's a redwood tree. His waders are stuck, and he is right there next. He's there, and the water, it was a pond, kind of a inflow is what they called it, of water and it wasn't that deep, and he was
Yeah.
right there. And I felt it, I knew it, but it's so funny. I look at that. You say that. I have this little plastic Jesus for the people that can view this, and this comes from his car in Italy in the 1950s. It's one thing that my stepmom gave to me, and I keep that here. My dad wasn't particularly religious, but somehow in Italy he got this and it was passed on to me. But I feel this very strong connection that he is an earth guide and he is very present and he loves throwing dimes, signs, music continually at me. So he is someone I have a lot of conversations with now.
You did say you were 30, but when I heard you say it the first time, I thought you said he was 30. That's why I
No,
asked
I
again.
was
You were
30.
30. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, I think I wasn't even quite that. I think I was 28 because he was not quite 57. And I was, I think, 28, 29. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
57. That's young.
yeah, it was incredibly young and
Yeah.
such a loss,
Yeah.
and he actually at 50 stopped drinking, retired, had all the money that he wanted, and he'd built the empire, stopped drinking. We are so much alike. Our love for nature, our videotapes of birds and animals, in watching now that I've received all of his videos, it's what I do too. And it's like, it's crazy how much
Mm.
alike we are. And but once again, I chose him.
Yeah.
I don't think our parents choose us. I think we choose them.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me about your mum.
Probably a more complex character. I think she failed to attach with a very, very difficult mother in a very difficult situation. She lost a brother to pneumonia on the way to the hospital because they didn't have the money to go to the doctor, so they delayed. And then, so my grandmother ended up being one of the largest real estate company and one of the wealthiest women in California because she was never going to not have money again,
Yeah.
um, because she lost her only son. And my mom ended up being an only child. And my dad was a middle child of three, and his oldest brother committed suicide, and his youngest. So it was pretty interesting. So they're all gone. All of that side of the family is gone. My mom was an only child, and they're all gone. And I'm often wondering and wanting to ask questions. So I have to really drop in and to listen and be guided. But my mom was someone who did fail to attach because I think her mom failed to attach with her. And she wanted to have 5 kids very quickly because she did not want to be alone. So, a good old Sag, independent, didn't, just
Mm.
I think that I was, interestingly enough, in the hospital at a very young age with pneumonia. Hadn't been picked up. Back of my head was flat, so I got pneumonia, and my grandmother came in, and I bonded very, very closely with my grandmother because she stayed with me in that hospital because she had already lost a child. So
Yeah.
I think I called all this in the nurture with her, and in the end, I ended up going to school and graduating high school with her. after bouncing back and forth like a ping pong for my mom and dad, you know. And yeah.
Do you think your mum loved herself? Do you
No.
know, this is one of the, because I have a very similar story with my mother as well. And there was a statement that Brene Brown said that I heard several years ago, but it was the thing that allowed me to understand my mother and the choices that she's made. And it was this: you
Right.
cannot love anybody else more than you love yourself.
Yeah.
And so for
You know, you say that though, and it would appear
mm,
because she looked like Elizabeth Taylor, it would appear that
mm,
she loved herself,
mm,
but there was multiple marriages, and
mm,
it was clear that she was seeking
mm,
the validation and the love that she didn't get from her
mm,
mother.
mm,
And she was abandoned and bounced around. And I also have read letters when her mother just left her at 10.
mm,
And she's so, I admire her so much. I called her
mm,
in too. Now my relationship with her, she's
mm,
so resilient. She's
mm,
83 and incredibly resilient. And I love
mm,
her for who she is. I do not challenge the areas where we go. There's no right or wrong. She isn't going to back down in those areas, and I don't need to be right about those any longer. So I am the generational breaker, not her. But my job is to love her and I look at her and I admire her for her power, her resilience, the fact that she runs a ranch by herself. I'm like, how do you do all that with macular degeneration? You know, with her
yeah.
eyesight going. And I
Mm,
think we have a different relationship now. You
yeah.
know, I'm in my 60s, she's in her 80s, and it's and of course there's a big story behind that. She was an only heir to a lot of money, and
Mm,
it jumped a generation from her and went to my siblings and I, and there was a big, you know, huge betrayal there for her. So I think
mm,
her trust and abandonment had been challenged over and over again. I think just showing up with the love and the compassion and trying to understand, and I think that's a great question. Who is
mm,
this woman?
mm,
I think I understand who she is. I'm not going to fix it. I'm not going to
mm,
bend it. But what I can do is celebrate the areas that we have in common. I love to go and make elderberry juice with her, and we cook, and I stay in the areas that we really complement and light each other up and can
mm,
connect.
mm.
But I do not challenge the areas
Yeah.
that there is not going to be any
Yeah.
movement or story change.
Yeah.
I know what she needs
I
to be through in order to feel good about herself, and
mm,
and I don't need any of that.
yeah.
I can be wrong about everything. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
to me anymore.
Yeah. Understanding that we're all a product of our environment. We all are shaped by the environment that we're in and the influences of all the people around us. And when you have a clear understanding of this, we can forgive anything, really. And
Yeah.
this is one of the beautiful lessons from these stories, is really being able to see people through this lens, that
Yeah.
there's nothing that can't be forgiven, because we all make choices because of the environment that we've been in and the messaging that we receive. And my relationship with my mother from 13 to 50 was very, very tough, very, very tough. But for
Me
some
too.
reason, there was something that just didn't let me give up, as much as I wanted to walk away many times. But
Yeah.
my elder sister died, which softened her. And then she started to get dementia. She's 91, she'll be 92 this year.
Wow.
But, we had 4 or 5 years where we've kind of reconnected. And I'm so glad I didn't give up. And all the trauma and all the experiences, they've all been part of shaping who I am today and my ability to look at people through this lens. And I see the same in your story.
Yeah. I
So,
cannot have the relationship I wanted. I have forfeited that. I wanted, and there was an
mm,
idea of a relationship I wanted. That is, I no longer have that.
yeah.
I do accept the relationship and all the years of not having one, all
Mm,
the betrayals, all of it. I don't go there, but you're right. Anything, and I do believe
mm,
this, as we know. I think we call in, not that we want to call it in, but we do
mm,
call in and we lean into what's familiar in our choices. The greatest power is
mm,
a right to choose, and we often choose what is familiar. And if we've grown up
mm,
in trauma and alcoholism, we'll often marry that. and recreate that. So for me, I recreated a lot of abandonment, a lot of betrayal. Betrayal was number one. And then it just disempowered me continually and kept me in a victim mode. I can't get those years back either. But what I can do, and it's really remarkable. And as I mentioned, I just got back from a 44-year class reunion. It was 4 classes. And they said, I've read your book. I can't believe what happened to you in your marriage. And I said, yeah, 25 years before I found out, he sexually assaulted his patients, lost his medical license. But we're good friends now. That was 6 years ago.
Yeah.
It did not happen overnight. It did not happen instantaneously. There's grief and there's work that has to be done. But it did allow me to go back and handle the core wound and my core fear of safety and betrayal. And I can be very confident in saying I will never call that in again. That healed version, what a gift. And people are like, how can you say that was a gift? Well, it's not like I wanted to call it in, but my takeaway can be it's a gift. And yes, there is forgiveness.
Yeah.
I can hold space for the good human and the broken human too. And it's not my job to judge. My ego is going to divide, separate, judge, annihilate. But if I stay in my heart energy, what it wants is to evolve, and it wants to love, and it wants to forgive. And it doesn't mean I'm so naive that I'm going to go back and I'm going to do it over again. I think it's our responsibility to learn and grow and put parameters up, or we can say boundaries. Boundaries are so overused, and it's like, I don't want to hear that word boundaries one more time. But parameters is a great word for me. I put up parameters like, yeah, I'm not going to go there, but I'm not angry either.
Yeah.
I'm going to release, I always say bless them with love, and bless and release, bless and release. I don't have to hold on to anything that I don't want to. And I'm not willing to do that anymore. I'm not going to hold on to grief that is no longer mine. But we can set up house there. And we've watched this, women our age that set up house there, and they burn it down continually, and they're struggling and they're in pain. And I'm like, oh, what would it look like if you did X, Y, Z? Well, if this doesn't happen and if they don't do this, then that's never going to happen. Well, you know what? It is our responsibility. And I do believe it is our responsibility. We choose our parents, and everything after that, we create and set up the dynamics. And we can either evolve and keep elevating our energy and our vibration into this next level that we aspire to be, or we can stay in the grief, the pain, and the drudges is what I say, but the drudges of just scraping by and being a victim to everything that comes our way. Everything is a victim. Everything is wrong. And I see it continually. And I'm like, oh, tells me your story immediately on where with your relationship with yourself.
Yeah. And I feel like this is something that I just want to shine a spotlight on, because it's something that I didn't really understand until I was nearly 40. And it makes me very sad that I wasn't taught this from an early age, because I think as a society, we're taught to look at how we're victims of something, or there's somebody to blame for something, or there's, so I was always the result of my mother's choices and my schooling choices, and then my first husband's choices. And, I was who I was because I was a victim of all these things. Nobody ever taught me how to think differently until I flew to the US 5 times and did a leadership training, and suddenly was given this frame of reference that you're responsible for everything. When you look at these situations, yes, the same things happen to, there are millions of people that go through divorces, millions of people that have challenging relationships with their parents. We all have these things, but how do we look at them? And if life is happening for us, what do we want to do with this? And I don't want to be
that was huge right there. What you just said was, it's so funny. Our stories just keep overlapping like this. I was in my 40s too before I decided enough of this reactivity. And I didn't even know what a world looked like outside of the reactivity, the defensiveness, the victimhood. I just didn't know, but I just knew I'm exhausted, and then you add some menopause in there. But you can't believe that and trust the process that it says behind me. You can't believe the universe is working for you sometimes and then not working for you other times. It's like it's working for you all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. It's supporting you all the time.
Yeah.
And I think Brené Brown, you brought her up, and I think this is such a huge component that it isn't the fear that's making our decisions from our past or our experiences. It's the armor we keep picking back up and putting back on because it's worked for us at some degree. The fear isn't what's navigating. It's like, I'm terrified to make, no, you're not. It's the armor that you keep putting back up, and you're just armored up because the ego is, it's got all its soldiers because it's in command.
Yeah.
Part of our subconscious and our story.
And there's universal truths that, that give us such extraordinary power. And one of them is that our mind is a projector. It's not a camera. So what we're looking at in the world around us is a projection of the thoughts and the beliefs and the inner world. And when we have this understanding, it's like, well, if we look at everything of how am I a victim of something, we're always going to find evidence. There's always evidence of how we're a victim, of how it's not our fault, of how we can blame somebody else. But what does that do for us? Absolutely nothing.
I was going to say, it never gives us the desired results we want. I always say we've got to drop into our desires, and then we attach it to an aspired action. But if we drop into our desires and it's uninspired action, which means if we attach it to our ego energy, we're just busy work. And this is how we can identify it. But it's there are so many modalities that we could utilize right now that could support, these theories. And I just love the fact that we're talking about this because it doesn't start where we are now.
No.
It doesn't start in a divorce now. It doesn't start in something bad happening to us now. On the why is this happening to me? It starts when we choose our parents, and we can evolve through that. And I wish that I wasn't in my 40s when I woke up, and it felt like an awakening.
Yeah.
And then but that's my process, and that's what everything was here to support me through that.
Yeah.
And I think that we all have to accept where we are.
Yeah. But I think, as the world is evolving, I feel like there was an evolution that had to happen in yours and my life and everybody that's been in the same lifespan as us. That the awakening wasn't supposed to happen until midlife. But now I think people are starting to wake up earlier and earlier because things are moving faster. But oh my gosh, we could go down so many
There's also women
holes.
Like us that we did not, let's face it, there wasn't the internet, there wasn't the teachings, there wasn't the availability, the reinforcements, there wasn't any of that. We just kept enduring, and perhaps there was something we saw, a book we read that we grabbed a hold of, and now there's just so much. You would have to be living under a rock not to have what you want, to call in a mentor or information that would support you in your healing process. And I'm very big on keeping it very simple and not making it complicated. There's an easy way and a hard way. You get to choose. Our greatest power is the right to choose. I always say, my book is about universal laws, and everything is energy. Everything is energy, and everything we do, every decision we make is it's going to dictate our life. So I always like to micro it, like what small decision can you make today that can make, it's not the big macro. Like we've had this big, thing that happened in our 40s and we changed. We made the decision to, to start the process of healing. And like you said, I had 6 trips to the US. It wasn't a one shot deal. I went back over and over again for this process and this evolution to start. And I look at it as an evolution.
One thought at a time. One thought at a time.
Yeah.
So I want to go back. We started with the parents that you chose, and the next big decision that you make is your first husband. So your parents separated when you were 7. So between there and launching yourself into womanhood, there's a story that your environment shaped you into the woman that came into partnership with your first husband. So if we think about, the girl that transitioned into womanhood, leaving school, the sort of first career paths. What did who did you see yourself as you were launching yourself into womanhood?
Well, what I saw and what I believed to be true were
Mm.
quite different than the reality of what I was going to be stepping into. I mean, the contrast was blinding. I thought I would go off. I thought there was a trust fund. I'd go off to law school. I wanted to be a lawyer. Um, but my grandmother, I mean, I lived with my grandparents and I lived in a kind of a Victorian mansion that they weren't geared for children there.
Mhm.
Um, the fact they endured having me there was, I look back on it and I can see how much love they had. I was hurt for many, many years because I came home one day. I worked at a winery. It was in Calistoga, and Calistoga is Napa Valley here in California, and it's a beautiful area. I come home, I've graduated, I'm young, I'm at 17, and my grandma decides I need to leave. And my grandfather says, you need to leave. And I'm like, okay, I don't know where to go. Okay. I'm just a kid
Mhm.
and I've got a car, and I'm like, but he meant that day. So I was launched out into the world. There's no cell phones. I have an 8-track in my car, and I went, and I didn't know what to do. I stayed with someone who was 19, who I thought was incredibly old. Um, from the winery I worked at, she was a bartender, and I thought, what am I going to do? And then I went to a DVC college, registered, I think it was just turned 17, 16, 17. Couldn't rent an apartment. I was too young. My mom was back with her second husband. I wasn't allowed to live in there. Moved in. It's crazy, the story. It's very traumatic, and I don't want to go. It was a lot of trauma, bouncing around, lack of safety, being very young, very naive, being a virgin, being thrown in, and being a very beautiful young girl, and being thrown into the San Francisco Bay Area with no knowledge of anything and trying to survive. And believing when, you could be a model, let's cast you. Just so many I mean, they call it catfishing now. Back then, I don't know what they would have called it, but I ended up working as a waitress, trying to go to school. And it was just literally, I was in pure survival mode. Law school was gone. I just remember, God, if you just get me through this, if you just keep me safe. And I remember in the middle of the night dragging my clothes out in garbage bags, thinking, here I am coming from this kind of life, and I'm dragging this out to my car and leaving in the middle of the night so I'm not raped by my roommate or whatever's going on. And those were real possibilities for me. I was not safe. So safety became, I was very frightened all the time. So then I had panic and anxiety attacks. I don't mean a little bit. I mean, in the hospital, not able to breathe at all, thinking I was having full-blown heart attacks. And I remember a nurse once putting her hand on me, and I can't even imagine being 19. And I am convinced I'm having a heart attack. And she puts her hand on me and with such love and compassion and says, I can't imagine what's happened in your life to bring you to this. Often think about her. I can smell her. I can feel her hand. I can see her yellow sweater. But she knew that I had, and life didn't get much easier. So that brought me into my first marriage. I literally, I didn't make a choice. I fell into safety. This looks like he is pursuing me, writing poetry, great family. There was so much trauma behind that. 3 years, 10 months, 2 daughters, fled, and it never got easier. It never got easier. He had a lot of trauma himself. Everything that I saw on face value is what I accepted. And the bottom, just the rug. We could call it the bottom falling out or the rug just getting pulled out from underneath me.
Yeah.
But I was incredibly resilient
Yeah.
and bright, and got a very good job as with the United States Chamber of Commerce, which I didn't have a law degree. I should have never had that job. I set records. I thought everyone was running as fast as I was, working as hard as I was. And I often look back and everyone says, how did you set those records? And to this day, I'm breakable with several companies. I can't tell them how because it was very trauma driven. And I thought everyone was doing that for survival. I mean, I thought everyone was moving that fast. And it took me a lot of years to realize. Now I move twice as slow as everyone else. And I think I'm twice as productive and calling twice as much money. But then it was, I would sabotage. I would, the marriage was 3 years, 10 months, and I got very sick. The anxiety and panic attacks switched to irretractable migraines that were off the cuff. I worked with the best research doctors and surgeons in the world. And I'm a huge believer in Louise Hay's book, Heal Your Life. And I do believe that our physical, how we manifest our illnesses, that showed up to protect me, because I think that, because people now ask me, how were you sick for so long? And that went on for 15 years. How did you endure that? And how did that stop? Well, there's not one modality that stopped it, but the belief and my identification. I used to identify, I'm a migraineur. Don't count on me. Don't. And then I would hide behind, my second husband, who was then a physician. I needed everyone else to take care of me. And the true story is I did need everyone else to take care of me. Even though I looked incredibly independent and powerful, my need was, I need to be plugged into external validation and everyone to take care of me. And if you don't, I'm worthless and I'm not seen. And the cycle was brutal. It was brutal.
I had something that came through, those simple sentences that land in your mind that just open up a whole new way of thinking. And it was this, like, do I know how to be in relationship with somebody who doesn't need me, or if I don't need them?
No, I did not know that.
If you take need out of the equation, do you know how to be in relationship with someone? Now, we know that.
First cause with ourselves, the most intimate relationship we're ever going to have is with us. So no, I did not know how to be in a relationship with me, which meant no one else. But that's such a brilliant question. In my book, I say that where there's a need, there's a lie. We have to have desire and want, but where there's a need, we are lying to ourselves. There's a story that is attached to that we do believe that we have to have it. We need it. Well, outside of air and food and water, I don't believe we need anything. I think we make up stories for protection. I need that love. I need that connection. I need that house. I need that car to feel safe. I need that identity. I need those clothes. How many times do we hear people say, I need it? I just heard this with someone who was building out something, and I was coaching on a teaching platform, and she said, I need that money. Everything is, and I'm like, that's a lot of stress, a lot of attachment to that need. What would it look like? Is there any other options? She won't consider any other options, because this is the channel she's invested in, and there's no pivoting. But the need is that is going to be the train wreck. But if she was able to say, what do I want? What do I desire? Can I have other options? Are there other opportunities? There's a million other opportunities. There's not one way, right way. There's one thought, right thought, but there's not one way, right way. There's a lot of different freeway exits and turns, and we all get to this destination at some point. And I hope for most women that I work with, I want them to find the peace and the grounding of connecting with themselves and knowing that externally seeking out validation, love, safety. The rug is going to be pulled out continually. You're going to face plant it continually. And when I decided to do this conversation with you, I said, I have to be as raw, vulnerable, and honest as I can be so other women can identify, with this. Because if I sugarcoat any part of the story, they may say, still had it pretty good. No, I didn't have it pretty good. I might have looked pretty good, but because the external, how I showed up in the world, I needed that to be really good, but behind it was absolute chaos.
It is the umbrella theme of fairy tales it is what it is, not what it looks like. We look at a fairy tale and we go, well, she gets the dress and the wedding, and it's like, but okay, so what happened before? What happened?
That was a mouse. Yeah.
But
in reality,
like that we're all going to sit in the ashes of our lives at some point. That's inevitable, all of us. And it may happen when you're
multiple
3.
times.
Yeah, it
May happen multiple times.
and it does. It does.
Yeah.
And it's like the seasons of life. Autumn is always going to come back. And there's always that time of rupture when things have to fall away so that we can, the next evolution arrives. But I don't want to skip over becoming a single mother. So you were married to your first husband for 3 years?
3 years, 10 months. And I fled when fled. The neighbors gave me their car and I drove like a maniac for safety. And I was in a legal battle for many, many years. And I have two grown daughters from that marriage that are 36 and 38. And I'm going to say my goal was to keep them safe and loved. My love for them is so deep and what I thought being a good mother was, where it was dinners, baths, structure, school, showing up, but I didn't know being a good mother was having a calm nervous system. I didn't know being a good mother wasn't yelling. I didn't know that that I was creating, and I think we all to some degree have to acknowledge that what we did right, and if there's a right and wrong way of parenting, that we're going to create damage. And now I'm just able to hold space for that. But yeah, I left and I was on my own for 9 years. If you could think of me being on my own, I do believe that I love to say I supported myself and I was on my own, but I wasn't.
Yeah.
I dated someone that was a big supporter of me.
Yeah.
And it wasn't something I was proud of, but it was something that I didn't think I could do it on my own.
Yeah.
I was sick and I was in the hospital at least once to twice, 3 times a week, and traveling all over the world, all over the country, and not knowing what airports I was in and flying in and out and traveling with my kids and it was crazy, but I never stopped. I just didn't stop until I tripped into an emergency room one day with, interestingly enough, walking pneumonia. I'm cycling and I meet someone, wasn't supposed to meet him. The nurses changed the slips on the door, but maybe I was supposed to meet him, wasn't I? Who has my father's name, just reversed, which is interesting. Stephen James. First married to a Kurt. I have a brother named Kurt. Second engaged to a judge named David. Middle brother David. Third married to Stephen, my oldest brother Stephen. If that's not crazy.
Yeah.
Do we call this in? I mean, is this a coincidence?
Yeah.
Or is
everything's
like
connected.
just like, everything's connected.
Yeah. It is.
So yeah, it was, And you know what? When I met him, I ignored the alcoholism. I ignored all of it because guess what? I needed someone to take care of me and I needed to feel safe. And he had that in spades. So I didn't see everything else going on. I mean, I had my mother and father in one. He was emotionally unavailable, and I'm like, well, he's East Coast. They're all surgeons in this. They're all emotionally unavailable. I had a reason for all of it, and it actually was what I knew. It was what I knew.
Yeah.
And so, to some degree, as much as I resisted, there was comfort there too.
Yeah.
And chaos.
Of course.
And that lasted for 25 years until it didn't, until I found out, that he was doing some very dark things.
Okay. So was this the second husband? No, this was.
Second husband. Second. I've only been married twice. Yeah. And that was 9 years of being a single mom and then tripping in, meeting him within 6 months, moving in and marrying him within the year. And then our daughter came after that. I got pregnant with her 3 months after we got married. So I have a third daughter. And she wasn't planned, but what a miracle child she was, but and that is his only biological daughter.
Yeah. I feel like when I think about, because I became a single mother, my children were 8, 6, 4, and 5 months old. I had 4 children, 8 and under, when my first husband left. And being that single mother for 9 years, I can see like a rebirth. That's a period of gestation. 9 is the period of gestation, of becoming, like it was your time of becoming, but you're in motherhood as well. For me, it was very much when I look back on it, I think about like I became the mother that I wish I had, the
Mm.
picture that I thought.
Yeah, I was going to say, for me, it was like that little lens where you could, I
Yeah.
had visions of what I thought was a perfect mom,
Yeah.
and that's what I tried to
Yeah.
create.
I was sent away all the time. So boarding
Yeah.
school, very traumatic,
Mm.
hated it, always sent away, always distant. And so with my children, I held them really close,
Mm.
but perhaps often a little too close, although now they're all
Oh,
incredibly independent. But, you know,
we have very similar stories there. I didn't go to boarding school. I just got thrown out continually. I bounced around house to
yeah,
house and never really had a home. So I wanted them to always feel incredibly safe,
yeah,
loved,
yeah,
grounded. I'm no matter what, I was going to make sure there was stability, grounding, and that they were safe and they felt incredibly loved and heard. Um, Not perfect, but I did very much like you said. Yeah, we showed up, and that was my version of, dinners and sitting down, and things that I loved. There's I think all good and all bad.
yeah.
My mom
No, no, no.
would make organic gardens and growing, and I took on a
Oh,
lot of that I
yeah,
loved. And my dad had such a, I mean, I think I took the best of them as well.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
That's
maybe
what
the
that's
worst
what
of it.
children are supposed to do. This is
Yeah.
the thing, you know. It's like I
Yeah.
hope to goodness my kids don't take everything because there's plenty of things that I wouldn't want to
Well,
pass on.
I'm a new grandmother.
Yeah.
Luca, my new grandson, is only 4 months old, and I flew down. I've been spending a lot of time in Florida, which it's very humid. I've been doing it very humid. California is very dry heat.
Mm.
There's very wet heat. It's very different, and I am so in love with this little boy. I had no idea he would have the impact on me that he did. But that being said, I'm watching my daughter turn into a mother, and I'm watching her. I'm in her car and I'm listening to her playlist, and she says, "Oh, mom, do you recognize?" Yes, I recognize all these songs. It's my playlist and the food she loves, and I'm watching how she maneuvers and what she's doing with him. And she goes, "You taught me this." And I'm like, "Wow, it's amazing." I'm in now the next level, which is so incredibly. I don't even know the word for it. Um,
There's no describing it. I mean, I'm in the same place with my
yeah.
daughter's little boy who was born in April, and
And you look at, I
yeah,
mean, look at us again.
yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
and he was born in February, and it's like, I can't, it's like flying into New York for the NASDAQ with my book. And then I'm so close to Florida. I'm like flying back to Florida any chance I can get. I want to be there every 8 weeks if I can. I mean, now he's rolling over and he's laughing. When at 4 months he wasn't. If almost five, now he's on vacation in Maine with
Yeah.
his other grandparents, and he's laughing in the back. I mean, they sent me videos, and I'm like, I don't want to miss a moment of that.
Hmm.
I don't want to miss a moment of that.
I think this is, like this is the pure magic of being the matriarchs. The matriarchs now, not only in our families, but this is our role on the planet. And I feel
Yes.
like this is, like these conversations where we can unpack the experiences that we've had and the lessons that we've
Yeah.
learned and actually pass them on. These are the conversations. That's why I'm doing these conversations.
Yeah.
It's
And
really,
it doesn't end to be
no.
61 and going on 62 and make these decisions now. Am I going to leave California? I'm native born in Northern California. It's home.
Mm.
Am I going to go and be with my daughter and my grandson in Florida?
Mm.
What do I do with my other two daughters that are in California? I mean,
Mm.
there's choices to be made
Mhm.
and decisions. And now I'm in a different decision-making process.
Yeah.
What does this version look like? Plus, I'm a grandmother, and I'm also a very, very much working, building a legacy here.
Mm.
And I know what I'm doing, and I'm not
Yeah.
going to stop doing it. It's like it's not like I'm driven. It's just I'm calling it in. It's my calling, and it feels there's nothing that is going to stop me from doing that.
People talk about retiring, and I have no concept of like
What does that
that
mean?
just feels
Yeah,
like boredom.
yeah. I'm like I'm not. Yeah, I'm not sure what that means, and why would we do that?
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I feel like, like there's a story between you're not with so your second husband, you're separated now from your second husband.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's been 6 years since, he went through, was accused of sexual, I mean, he did do what he was accused of doing. Um, and I think that might have been the biggest leap in growth of the core wound of what I needed to address and heal. And that was, I considered him my rock. And perhaps he was, and I think I can hold space for it now, that he was the safest person in my life, which is sad because there was so much deception and betrayal. But that was, and I can hold space for that was the safest person in my life that I had ever had.
Yeah.
And but I can also hold space for the betrayal and the fact there's no do-overs. And this is not an unforgivable offense because we're close and we're friends and we take care of each other. But and there is a connection there. And it's not a trauma bond. And he's a decade older, so he's in his 70s. And I see the mortality. I see what's going on. And I don't want him to leave this world and feel unloved because of what happened to him and what he continued to do in order to get power. I'm not justifying any of it, but I do, to some degree, understand it.
Yeah.
I don't feel the need to regurgitate it over and over
Yeah.
again and try to figure it out in the beginning.
Yeah.
I had to know, I had to figure out. I had to ask over and over again, why? And you know what? It almost drove me mad.
Yeah.
I had to start asking questions that helped me evolve.
Yeah.
And I think and we have to not only ask questions, but we have to sit with our decisions and say, am I living the life that I'm here to live? Is
I
this
think
holding
this
me back?
is
Am I living in protection and safety? Or am I launching out into the world where I need to be? And I'm like,
I feel like this is one of the great loops that requires a little loving spotlight because I've been there, I've been in it. I feel like, like my and the spotlight is that we've got to live in the present, because I've
yeah,
been in what I've called a sabbatical for probably 8, 9 months of my youngest child leaving home, being a full-time mother, many of those years as a single mother, and like my whole identity was my children, even though I've grown this business, I've done all these other things outside of it. But my youngest
yeah,
child
I get that.
leaving was like, now who am I? Honestly, it's
Yeah.
like, who am
But
I?
isn't that every stage that we do?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm over my youngest is 28. She's been out of college, lives in San Francisco, going for about, and I'm like, wondering now,
Yeah.
who am I?
Yeah. And what is it?
I feel
What's a grandmother? Like,
yeah, and exactly. And where am I supposed to be? And are there right and wrong decisions? And my heart's pulling. And what am I honoring the right? I'm questioning, but I'm sitting with it without struggling. I'm just sitting with a whole barrage of new circumstances and questions. I feel I can feel a lot of things changing. And I'm like, okay, I need to focus more on building muscle. Especially after visiting him and him being now 20 pounds, like, okay, let's do some weightlifting. But I'm constantly focused on health and what it's going to take to support this life. They're new questions. And I'm wearing glasses for the first time. And it's like, oh, I'm going to need glasses to drive at night. And there's just different challenges that I never thought of.
Yeah.
It's getting older and not understanding what that is on my own.
Yeah.
It's like I don't consider like, are you going to get remarried? I don't think of any of that. What I do think is I'm on a mission here and I have a mission. I have a mission and I'm very committed to it. And I have 3 daughters I'm very committed to. And I want to be there for them, but I don't know what any of this looks like. And then I disengage and I'm back to being present day by day and the micro and not the macro because then I take it all on and then I'm overwhelmed and then I'm in the paralysis of overthinking and not just feeling today and if we allow ourselves to slow down and feel the day to day, like today I went out and and smelled my rosemary and looked at a butterfly, and it just allowed a new energy to come in. And then that made a different decision and a different shift. And I think that we underestimate the power of feeling and connecting to nature and being very present with what we feel without setting up house there and saying, this is the directive, just allowing the emotions to flow through
Yeah.
and not be frightened by them.
Mm.
Because I think a lot of women, you see it a lot out there. Empowerment, older, beautiful, their bodies are being sculptured. And you're like, and there's just, I think it's a new level of comparison, frankly, because it's all who could look at and I'm like, can we just be? Can I just show my arms hanging? Can I show my scars on my legs? Can I
Yeah.
show my size 12 feet? Everything's so sculptured. And I'm like,
Yeah.
it's great, good for them. But I almost feel like there's no comparison, but I want to stop. And I've started unfollowing, not because I don't love what they're doing and support them, but I don't want it to mirror back and make me feel bad about who I am in my journey. And I noticed I was feeling bogged down. I
Yeah.
stepped away from social media and I said, this doesn't feel good. My team ran. I'm
Yeah.
like, I just don't want
Yeah.
to be on there because I think we set ourselves up for that. And what do I want that to feel like? What do I want it to look like? How am I going to embrace this
Yeah.
season? How they're
Yeah.
embracing it. How do I want to
Yeah.
embrace it? What does that look like?
Yeah. It's everything's become such a performance, and that's the thing that the old it's more repellent it is. The minute I see performance,
Yeah.
I'm like, God, it's
Bravo.
like,
Well, not only performance, even it's like my head just tilts and I'm like, no, I'm not going to do it.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not going to do it. But it also drops me in and wanting to be more honest, more
yeah,
vulnerable in what people project on me. Oh, you don't look over the stage, or do you look at it? And I feel like I want to tell more stories. Like, hey, what you see isn't what is truly here. Let me drop in and show you what it took to get here. Like we talked about earlier, I've got like all those stitches right here inside my mouth. I have a full mouth reconstruction, and now I'm having to have some that was 20 years ago, almost died of a systemic infection, of a bone infection. And literally was blessed with just amazingly beautiful teeth prior, but even better teeth after.
yeah,
And I'm challenged again, and it's a lot of money. And I'm like, at first, like, why is this happening? Why can't it just be easy? But perhaps that's the wrong question. I think when we said, I really cried and had my release after a long surgery and a bone graft, things I didn't expect. I just thought I'm so grateful for this incredible dentist. And I'm so grateful that, I caught this and that I'm brave enough to go to the dentist. So a lot of people that would ignore and not go. That so I just kept looking at all the things I could do, not what I couldn't do, and embracing what I have done, not what I haven't done.
yeah.
I think it's very easy for us to look at what we haven't done yet, but just look at everything we have done, and I think women underestimate what they accomplish on the day to day, the invisible workload, the visible workload, the invisible workload. And they think that it's just what we do. I can imagine you said, I'm devoted. Who am I without being a mother of four? I imagine your workload and your invisible workload. It's a labor of love. We love the labor of love. Of course, we loved it. We wanted to serve. But when we remove that, there can be this void of we've really not related to us. And we have to rebuild this relationship with us. And that is a whole new level of intimacy and understanding on needs. And it can be frightening.
Yeah, because who I was when I became a mother was somebody that was desperately looking for somebody to tell me who to be, to save me. Like I was looking for
Save me.
the prince
Yeah,
on
no,
the
I had
horse.
a flag up. It was red. I didn't have a white flag. I had red. Hey, both arms. Ambidextrous. Save me. And I am ambidextrous. It's like, yeah. And I think I would have called anything in. I would have called any ship in.
Yeah, and I did. And and then he left and I was a mother. And so then this identity started to form. But then when the children I'm not that mother to the children. You know, like for the last 9 months, I've honestly been in this retreat, and the sense of calm has been
Mhm.
beautiful, and the surrender, and it's just this sense of like learning who I am when I'm not Edwina Murphy-Droomer on in the business world, and I'm not the mother, and I'm not the wife, and I'm not the daughter, and I'm not the sister, and I'm not the, you know, like it's just like, who am I? Learning who I am from the inside out.
Yeah.
And that's a revelation. It's a remembering.
It's a remembering.
There's nothing new. I'm not getting any shocks and surprises. It's just like this. I have these moments of giggling like a child. It's like, well, of course, you know, I see in my charts, you know, I'm the illuminator and I'm the visionary. It's like I've been a vision building mentor for years, but
Yeah,
it's
you
it's
are.
written it's written in the stars, and it's like looking at it
Yeah.
going, well, why am I questioning? Why am I questioning this? You know,
Mm.
so that that
Why am I questioning that? Because
yeah,
it's easier to play small than it is to lean in and say it's written in the stars. This is what, because what would that look like? I think it's easier for us to limit and navigate that than it is to embrace the unknown of the unlimited possibilities. And we know, and we know that everything's available to us. What's available to us in the future is available to us now.
yeah,
And we're like, if it is, how do I get there? Wrong question. What's it? It's like, wrong question, wrong question. But those questions are geared and wired to
yeah.
keep us feeling in our high low, our limited space the container that we feel the safest in. And what would it look like, that bigger container? What would that feel like? And who's going to hold that for us? Someone else? Us?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or source, the universe? Are they going to hold it?
Mhm.
It's going to take a lot of trust for that.
Mhm.
And I think that's where I drop in every day with, my first words out of my mouth are, all is well in my world. I am safe. I am loved. I'm protected. And it has different versions, but that little mini prayer before my eyes aren't even open yet, I call that in. I am safe. All is well in my world. And I'm going to continue no matter what happens. It's going to be in my favor. No matter what takes place, it's setting me up for something, and if we think about even when things go bad, I recognize that if I'm going to clear out a lot of my business, which I've done this year, it's been an enormous amount of universal law of surrender, just surrendering and giving up a lot of clients and saying, "Oh my God, that's like a 500,000 I'd get. What's happening?" I don't say that. I'm not even anxious. I'm like, wow,
Mhm.
the universe must have something really, this is where my trust
Mhm.
must have something really
Yeah.
magnificent for me, or it would be clearing house to this degree. And I knew at this age there was something coming in where I was taking ownership of this deep, deep version and ownership of me that is able to help a lot of women as a seer. I think that it's important to acknowledge and no longer water down who I am,
Mhm.
because it's more palatable, then it doesn't frighten people, and then I can be a little bit more mainstream. I have never been mainstream,
No.
but somehow I thought I was being like, oh, look at me blending in. I don't think we're meant to blend in. And certainly not, our generation is not meant to blend in right now. We
Mm-mm.
are meant to be bold, audacious, and claim, because
Mhm.
then we're giving other women the permission to claim. That is we have a responsibility as
Mhm.
leaders to claim and to share and to give other women, whether we know it or not, permission to tell their stories. When you do these series and women listen to this, then they want to tell their story. And then they want to, and then it gives them permission to heal, to share, not to be, utilize the ego that's going to protect the shame and the grief. And it's going to just open it up and say, I have no judgment on any of it. There is no more. I love all those versions of me. There is a version of me that I have not healed, loved, had compassion for. And so any form of shame that I would have hid behind, and shame was a huge component. Never show anyone what you've gone through with your teeth. Never share any of that stuff in your book. What would people think if they knew? And I remember being at that reunion this last weekend and then being like, oh, never knew. And I'm like, yeah, I know. What would you like to know? Because I'm so confident in owning my life story. I don't care. I just don't care about judgment anymore. That energy, I couldn't waste another moment on that energy, but I gave away so much of my power most of my life. What do you think of me? Am I okay? Do you love me? Am I acceptable? Am I palatable? Am I beautiful? Give me all everything I need to know. Does this look good? Does that now it's like I'm gonna wear what I want. We just did a video and I allowed my girlfriend, we're walking away on the beach this last weekend. We had a great girls' weekend. I normally would have flipped out and said, no way are you putting me in a bathing suit with sweatpants walking away. You two have great behinds. I'm like, that's not fair. I have a flat ass, not fair. And I've got baggy sweats. That's just not, but guess what? I laughed out loud.
Yeah.
My team said, hey, you okay with that? They and I'm like, sure, why not? Why not give other women permission to have this? That's my body type. I mean, I have nothing. It is like, and I'm just like, I turn to the side, I'm this skinny, and it's like, that's why I was always.
Yeah.
But I remember going back and at 15 struggling with the big hips and the skinny. And I mean, I tried in my 20s to see if there's a doctor that could break my hips because that was when they had all the boyfriend jeans. And I'm like, and here I am, I'm 5'9" and 130 pounds. I'm so underweight, but my hips, I'm not going to make those go any, my bones are sticking out, but doesn't matter. I wanted the figure of, the no breasts, the no hips, and I wanted that look. And I think we've been sold a bill of goods. And I'm like, if I could do one thing, it's just to put a mirror up and show them every woman that shows everything out there. I mean, they might be the before, whatever, however they want to do it. Just how beautiful is that?
Yes.
I said I spend 15 minutes a day out there and I celebrate it and support as much as I can, outside of being in front of Zoom most of the day or traveling and, at speaking and being at events. But I'm going to give as much love and support to women that are showing up because I want them to know how magnificent I think that is. You might even
the making friends with our bodies. I mean, we could do another whole hours
especially in our 60s. It's like, wow.
Yeah. But I can remember I've got very large breasts, and I can remember, somebody taking a photo when I was breastfeeding my eldest son and just wanting to weep. I was so ashamed of my, boobs that were bigger than my baby's head.
Oh my God.
That's just what it looked like. And it was like,
are so much alike. It's crazy. It's crazy.
All these images of these beautiful, petite women feeding that the picture in my head. And then I remember seeing Ashley Graham. Do you know who Ashley Graham is? I actually haven't seen anything for her. I haven't followed her for a long time, but I remember seeing her feeding her, she had twins first and just going, oh my God, where were you? Where was that image?
Where were you giving me permission to have these ginormous, I mean, I nursed two at one time. They were 18 months apart. I was like, one would lay here on that one and then I would hold one. I mean, I was like, it was insane.
Yeah.
But now they're like down to my stomach and I'm like, my daughter said, maybe you can give yourself permission to have a breast lift. And I don't want implants. I'm like, that could take years off my life. How much do I want that? How much and that would be for no one but me. I don't want implants. A lift could be nice because it's a lot of skin. Because those huge breasts are completely. I had a massage the other day and I said, your elbow is on my breast. And she goes, oh, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, no worries. It's like, but that hurts. Wait, because it's the truth.
I know.
I don't think I'm the only woman out there that's dealing with that. But it's like, I don't want to hide those things anymore. I think we have to share these moments that are relatable. Maybe not everyone has it to that degree, but my daughter did say, she said, I want a breast reduction after I end up stop nurse feeding. And I'm like, she says, but mom, you might come first. And I'm like, she goes, if that's what you want to do, I support you. And I'm like, maybe.
My daughter's saying the same thing. She's like, oh gosh, she's not loving the ginormous breasts. But it's, like it's one of these things. Girls with no boobs are looking at big boobs going, I wish I had those. And we're looking at those at small going, I wish I had those. And
No,
isn't this
absolutely. I
yeah.
grew up with the stepsisters the same exact age, just went to the reunion with her. I mean, literally like double A's, no breath. And I'm like, perfect. Everything was perfect. And here I've got these ginormous. And I'm like, I never wanted them. They were in my way. I mean, it was just like, and I think we all want what we don't have. I wanted small hips, no breasts. She wanted a curvaceous shape. I mean, I was literally like, it's incredible, but
Yeah.
I disliked it. So I
Yeah.
never loved it, never embraced it, never
Yeah.
supported it. I worked against it. I think a better question these days, how can we work with
Yeah.
who we are, who
Yeah.
we've evolved into? How can we love
Yeah.
that version of us that perhaps when our hormones hit, for me, it was 15. How can I go back and love that version and bring her forth? She deserved to be loved, not shamed, and it didn't take much for one person to say, ooh, she's got huge hips, for me to think, oh my God, my hips, and my hips aren't that huge. But a 15-year-old girl said it, who was just being whatever catty in school. And it's funny how that sticks.
Oh gosh. It's crazy. It's crazy how
It's
it
crazy.
sticks. Yeah,
Yeah.
it
And I think
is.
for women, we hold on to that
Mm-hmm.
and we're like, well, I'll show them someday. I don't know. I mean, there's nothing to prove, nothing to share or show at this point, except for how now my goal is how can I make myself strong, healthy, and strength is important. Strength training is important to me.
Yeah.
Um, Eating well, I've always done, but it's like I want longevity, and that's my focus. My focus no longer is um, how flat is my ass? And I have a girlfriend. I have a girlfriend who's Greek, a very close girlfriend, and she's like, there are butt things you can put in and it looks so much better in your pants, and it looks so much better in your dresses. And I'm like, underwear with
But
built-in booties?
I'd need it as
There
well.
is.
Yeah.
There is. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, how about not? How about I
Yeah.
just embrace who I am?
Yeah.
What a concept that you've got a great
Oh,
boudier. It's great, but I think I'm going to embrace this because this is who I am. And trust me, I wish it was more, but I'm going to work out and see but it's almost like another challenge.
yeah,
Now by the time I'm 65, maybe I'll be a bodybuilder,
yeah.
weightlifter. And I'm thinking, how much muscle can I build around that two bones? And I don't know.
Yeah.
I might just have a little something there. I know.
Yeah.
I think I could do it.
The butt building
I believe I could.
challenge. We go like
The butt building challenge. I know.
Yeah.
I thought maybe some tape there too would work. I know. It just, it's everybody has
Yeah.
their own body challenges. For
course.
me, going through those years I was sick, I went through a lot of medication with the migraines, and I had a systemic infection in my legs too. So I almost lost both my legs. But what it left me with was an enormous amount of scars. So my beautiful cycling legs, my beautiful tan, no, now they are very damaged. But you know what? I told God, if I don't lose these legs, if I can keep these, because they said, we don't know if we could save one of them. You have a systemic infection. Same time this is going on, that's going on. I have no nutrition in my body. I'm underweight. I'm literally, it's hard for me to believe that that's where I found myself in my late 30s, 40s. And but I told God, if you save my legs, I will pay this forward the rest of my life. My struggle is showing them because people often are shocked and I'm like, it shouldn't be so shocking. There's scar, there's muscle missing because it was 17 forms of staph that did need oxygen to eat the tissue. And so it was terrifying. It was terrifying. And the shame of it kept me from reaching out and asking for help. I knew something was wrong. I could smell something. And I'm like, it was like I'd stepped in dog duty and I couldn't get that out of my sinuses. And I remember going into the emergency room and my husband working there. And I said, something is wrong. I have the smell. My legs are weeping. It's bleeding through my boot right now. I said, I said, can we swab it, make sure everything's okay? And he did. And I went away on a trip with a girlfriend, and he called very calmly and said, you need to come back. And, then I was on IV antibiotics, and now we were in critical save mode. They wrapped my legs in wound care. And then I had to share with them that that was medication that I was taking that did that. So layers of shame and a
Oh,
discovery, so that's why that probably wouldn't have gone that far had I not, if I was able to share and say, hey, this is going on. But who do you share that with? Who is it going to judge and call you a drug addict? And I thought, I'm not a drug addict. These are prescription medications. Everything's assigned to me. I'm doing everything right. But
mm.
once again, did I call
Oh,
them
that shame is just,
the shame?
I can
Yeah.
remember after my
Anywhere I
first kid.
pivoted, it's walking into the wall of well, the wall of shame is what I call it. Anywhere I pivoted, I walked into the wall of shame.
But that needing to ask for help, the reluctance to ask for help, this is, this is just insanity. How are
Because
we alive
it'll
like
reveal the
this?
truth.
I know. I know. I can remember after my first husband left, and I had four babies at home with tonsillitis, and I got it, and we were all so sick, and I was nursing them. My youngest was 6, 7 months old, and I got so sick because I couldn't even swallow my own saliva. So I got incredibly
Oh yeah.
dehydrated. I was exhausted. I was breastfeeding, like the whole thing. And I ended up packing the kids up 3 o'clock in the morning or something and drove us into the hospital. And they put me on a drip and took the kids. And the doctor said to
Wow.
me, I am not letting you leave until you ring somebody for help. And I was
Yeah.
like, it was the most torturous
Gun.
thing
Yeah.
to experience because for me, it
Yes.
was like, I am not coping. I am failing,
Yeah.
like red
I'm
flag,
failing.
useless, worthless.
Yeah.
And it was one of the greatest gifts. I rang a girlfriend, and this girlfriend is the youngest of 10. So, she's one of those sort of women that's just like
Yeah.
so
Mhm.
grounded and
Yeah.
nothing, completely unflappable. She's like, why on earth didn't you let us know? It's like, oh,
Yeah, it's so incredible. And I think
yeah,
that there's a powerful message right there.
yeah,
Right there. So many women. There isn't any story anyone
no,
could bring to my door that I would judge and not
no,
show up and be there 100,000%.
yeah,
But when it came to me, it's like I had to
yeah,
be this perfection paralysis, and
yeah,
I would break the image. And then what would they think if they knew that? What would they think? Then I'd have to tell them I was sick, and then I would have to tell them that everything they thought that was true of me wasn't true. None of that was true anyway. But it's funny how we can almost gaslight ourselves
yeah,
into believing this
yeah,
story that prevents us and paralyzes us
yeah,
from asking. We just keep pivoting around and around and around
yeah,
until we've dug a hole and we're like, now how do I get out of
yeah,
this?
yeah.
And but here we are.
You are such a gift. My beautiful, beautiful friend. Thank you so much for so generously
You are such a
sharing
gift.
your story. I'm sure there's 1,000 other questions that I could ask, but I am aware of your time and what time it must be there. So, Will, is there anything that I didn't ask that you feel would be of, a gift or a piece of your story that just would be,
I don't think so. I think that if I look back, the relationship with myself is I didn't trust myself.
yeah.
If there's one thing I could leave women with that are
Mm,
listening, it would be how can you trust yourself?
yeah.
How can you get past the stories that you've created and just try one thing today
Mm,
to connect and trust yourself, because that is our foundation of how we build,
yeah.
how we find the peace, how we find the joy, is to trust our own personal process, and
Yeah.
that not one of us is meant to be like the other one. Not one of
Mm,
us, we could have similar, it's a sisterhood. We're
mm,
here to support, to love, to be compassionate. Anything else,
mm,
it should be, it should be washed away, just like the ebb
mm,
and flow of the tides.
mm,
So if they've called in a lot of judgment, if they are surrounded by women that are critical and not supporting them, clean house.
Yeah,
Give yourself
yeah,
permission to say,
yeah.
and I think that's a tough one when we're plugged into external validation and we need the love and the approval, and we're in this bind. And I just want women to know there are so many incredible women out there that you can reach out to that will support you, just like you in the hospital. I made a phone call, best decision I ever made, and I got the support I needed. We think we have to do it alone. We
Yeah.
don't. We
No.
don't. We're not required. And number one, we're not ever alone. We're, the universe is always supporting us, and I'm very plugged in to the signs and the support. And then it calls in the women like you that not only our stories are intertwined, but every conversation we've ever had, I feel like I'm home. I just know I could pick up or fly to Australia. And I just know
Yes, come.
that, yeah, well, I just might. I just might. I just know that would be where I needed to be. I don't second guess that anymore. So just trust yourself. Stop second guessing in and out of trust with yourself, because it allows us to make other decisions that don't serve our heart soul energy. Terrific for the ego energy.
I don't think there is a greater compliment that you could give anybody than being around somebody that feels like home.
Well, there you go.
I don't think, and for women,
that was the truth.
For women like you and I, that feeling safe in the world has been a big part of our journey. Becoming home for ourselves allows us to become home for other people.
What a beautiful note to leave that on. Yes.
Thank you.
It's an honor. Thank you.
All right, beautiful soul. All right, gorgeous women, I hope you've enjoyed this conversation, and I will, of course, be back again. So much love, and bye for now.